So my name's Jodie and I'm working here at the DMRC at Stamford Hall, and today we've got Ciaran, who's very kindly offered to take part in the interview. Thank you for being with us today. So just the first question that we wanted to ask was, could you just tell us a little bit about your military life, just to start us off as a bit of a story background?
Yeah, absolutely. So my military career was quite brief, to be honest with you. I joined straight from school. I went to the Army Foundation College at Harrogate. From there, rolled straight into ITC Catterick. Spent around 9 months to a year doing sort of ceremonial duties once I arrived at battalion, and then was on tour pretty quickly. And then,
in Afghanistan?
Yeah, we deployed on Herrick 11. Which was October 2009. I joined the army in 2007, so it was pretty choppy, really. And then, like I said, getting towards the back end of that tour was when I got injured. Obviously, I lost my leg. Then about 18 months of rehabilitation at Headley Court, and then that was me pretty much. So my army career was quite a brief part of my adult life, really.
Brief, but do you enjoy being part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was what I always wanted to do. I think from being probably 11 or 12, I was in the Army Cadets, and I knew that that's what I was doing. So I didn't really try too hard at school because I already had my career mapped out, really. I didn't plan on it being cut short quite as quickly as it did. But yeah, it was a great experience, even in the 4 or 5 years of sort of active service, obviously not counting rehab. I managed to do loads of travelling, sort of skied, mountain climbed all over the world, really, quite a brief time. So it was a massive start to my life. It was great.
Yeah, amazing. And how is life after military life?
Initially quite difficult. I think even though it was career-wise, it was such a short part of my adult life. My social circles were all still very military. I was still very much in that environment, if that makes sense. So that transition, my first time I worked for a woman, which was because I was obviously being an infantry, everybody was blokes. Yeah. That was an eye-opener for me. Sort of bounced around jobs, really. But yeah, eventually I sort of found my way, and I sort of found what I want to do in life, and things are going pretty well.
That's great. That's amazing. What is it that you do now then?
So I run an alternate education provision. It is still, again, it's military sort of themed, for want of a better word. So it's called UK Military Mentors. And basically we're all ex-forces, so we're all veterans, and we work with young people that are at risk of exclusion from mainstream school. And we sort of use skills and experiences from our time in the armed forces to help them with sort of behaviour management, self-reflection, conflict management and things like that, with the idea of getting them back into mainstream school and avoiding that permanent exclusion, essentially. And also,
is that a kind of road maybe into the military that they might want to take as well?
No, not necessarily. I mean, there's a small number of young people that I have worked with who have gone down that route. I think that has been more... I think the demographic typically that the military recruit from are very much that demographic. So you've got the kids that don't really thrive in an academic environment, but they're not stupid, they're just not academic. And
it's definitely not for everybody, is it? So
no, it's not. And we've worked with some lads that are absolutely brilliant, and the team will look around and think that would be a great route for him. And obviously, if the young people come to us and say that's what we want to do, we'll support them as best as we can, but no more than what we would do if they wanted to do any other trade or go into any other industry, really.
Yeah, that's amazing. Where is that based?
We're based in Tameside in Greater Manchester.
Yeah, okay, great. So that's a really awesome job. I think that's really cool. Because like you say, education is not for everybody. So I think that's a really important thing to do. And how did you hear about Advanced to start off with? So I'll introduce the study now. So regarding the study, how did you hear? Was it through?
So I heard about Advanced through my unit welfare officer. Came around to do like a home visit. It was sort of out of the blue, really. I've not really been in touch with my regiment for quite a while, but they got in touch. They wanted to basically just check up on me. and he mentioned it, and like I say, that was a good while before I actually did it. It was one of them things that I sort of paid lip service to, really. But then I sort of like, it sparked in my head again a little while later. I was like, do you know what? Like, I do want to have a look at it. But yeah, so that's how I heard about it.
Great. And why did you choose to take part? What was the reasons behind that?
There's loads of reasons that I wanted to take part in the study. I think that one of them was, purely it piqued my curiosity. I think that the level of testing that you get invited to, to do that privately, people would pay a lot of money for it, wouldn't they?
It's like a health check almost, isn't it? Like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was in really bad shape at the time. I was massively overweight. I wasn't doing a great deal with my life, sort of physically at least. Obviously I was working and things like that, but I wasn't really looking after myself. And yeah, I was just
down to your injury, or do you think that was just your life at the time? Because sometimes you just can't get to that point of like exercising and things like that. Or
I think my injury was a convenient excuse. I think that when I got out of the military, I became very career focused. I really wanted to sort of, because my options were quite limited. I didn't do particularly well at school. And I sort of found a bit of momentum working in sort of youth work and education. And all I really wanted to do was that. Because I was so overweight and so unhealthy, just going to work alone, it was absolutely flooring me. I didn't have time, or I didn't make time for anything outside of that, really. And then it's just a bit of a vicious circle. But
yeah,
I wouldn't say that my injury was the reason. I'd say that I allowed it to be, if that makes sense.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So when you came to advance and they did all the checks, that kind of made you think, actually, I'm going to change that.
Yeah, it was the results from the DEXA scan more than anything. It was a massive eye opener for me. Like, I knew I was out of shape. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't lost on me. I was in sort of triple XL clothing.
Wow.
I don't think I knew how bad it was. And not just my weight, just my overall health. Like, I was doing the sort of baseline testing and the sort of things that I don't think about. You know, how far can you walk in 6 minutes? I don't think I'd walked for 6 consecutive minutes in years, if I'm honest with you. And it wasn't very far that I could walk. And it was like, I remember driving home from it just thinking, like, how have I got myself into this situation where I'm absolutely shattered and there is nothing physically demanding asked of you as study. And I was in a bad way driving home. I was like, I'm really tired. Like, it's only about an hour and a half drive, and I had to have a stop because I was knackered. And I was like, yeah, I need to start firing and get myself sorted, really.
Oh, that's quite a cool thing to hear, that kind of pushed you into doing that. To be honest, I wish I had time to do that exercise wise. I need to make time.
You got to make time. That's the secret.
Yeah. Lots of children to look after, but I will do it. That's the thing. So how did you find your advanced visit? So how was the day in general when you came to us?
Yeah, so obviously I came down to advance the night before, so they sort of put me up in a B&B nearby, which was absolutely lovely, by the way.
Oh, good.
I don't know what, I can't remember the name of it now, if I'm honest with you.
I think it might have probably been the Royal Oak.
The Royal Oak, that was it, yeah, that was the one. But yeah, I don't know what I was expecting, but I've never stayed in a B&B before, but it was absolutely lovely. It's really nice. But yeah, generally it is a good day. Like I say, obviously, if you're interested in that sort of thing, it's really informative. So all the way through the day, whilst they was doing tests, I knew why they was doing the test and what the purpose of it was, which is obviously good because you don't just want to be sort of in there having needles put in you and this, that and the other, and you don't really know what it's about. So I felt like I was learning all day as well. And obviously just really looked after it. It was almost like being a VIP to an extent of people bringing you drinks and your food. And yeah, just the whole experience was really good.
That's great. And what kind of impact has it had on your life? So obviously you told us about the fact that it made you think, I need to exercise more and eat better. Is there anything else that might have been impacted by that?
Yeah, honestly, in terms of how it's impacted my life, it was probably, if I look back, probably the single moment that got me to where I am now. Obviously, it's not solely responsible for it, but that moment of realizing that I wasn't doing particularly well, which came as a result of it. You know, obviously I lost 11 stone in weight. I put a little bit back on now, but that's intentional. I maybe took it a little bit too far. Got a bit skinny. So it's completely changed that side of my life, and then that has obviously had a massive knock-on effect in other aspects of my life as well. So, you know, I'm just a miles better dad as a result of it. You know, I'd never taken my son to the park or for a walk. It just wasn't something that would enter my head. That was something that I'd let his mum do essentially. But now I do that, you know, at least once a week. We're doing things like that, probably more. Career-wise, you know, I realised that essentially the job that I was in, I was only there because it was convenient, because it wasn't physically demanding. And that's allowed me to challenge myself. You know, I left the job that I was in, started my own business. That's absolutely thriving. I realised that, yeah, just my whole situation I wasn't happy with. You know, I've actually got divorced since then as well, which might sound like a negative, but I think that both myself and my wife was really unhappy. And it's something that probably needed to change, and maybe wouldn't have done had I not sort of had that little awakening, I guess. So yeah, it's been 3 years, and my life's almost unrecognisable compared to sort of the day before I went into the initial study, I guess.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's like, well done. It's great. Is there anything more that you would like to see from the study? So obviously you said it's great to come and spend the night and be well looked after. Is there anything else that could be added in any way that you think?
I don't think from a point of view in terms of what's relevant with the testing and things like that. I think that the feedback is pretty good. I think the one thing that maybe I sort of left me not necessarily in the best place was the mental health questionnaire that it is that you have to do.
Yeah.
I think anybody, if you do any sort of real honest reflection, that can leave you feeling a little bit shit. And I think that maybe some feedback on that would have been good, you know, just in terms of where you are in terms of not how normal you are, because I don't think that we all fit into one box, but, you know, does everybody that does this test feel how I feel, if that makes sense? You know what I mean? Because I sort of, it's not really that deep, you know what I mean? There's no psychoanalysis going on, but it's, for me, I sort of driving home was in quite a ponderous mood, because you're asking questions about your life and things like that. And it was actually quite an emotional drive home in that respect. So I think that maybe some sort of decompression element of that to be built in, or some feedback on it, would be really useful. But I mean, that I wouldn't even say that's a negative, because again, that's something that after that drive home, I did actually feel quite motivated again, even on the second visit, that there is still lots of work to do. So it's a double-edged sword, I guess, but that's probably the only thing that I think could have been taken care of a little differently. Some
kind of feedback would be good from that questionnaire. I do think you are right, because otherwise I think it's quite general, you know, and then
it is vague. It is, and I think that's intentional. But I think when something is such a broad spectrum, I think depending on the individual and how I'm an overthinker. You know, I am very much like that. So it was, and one of the questions that really stood out to me was asking you about how much you think that your friends value you. And I know that that's something that a lot of people would probably sort of water off a duck's back, but I really, really thought on it. You know, I was driving home, like, because I gave quite a low score to that. And then I was sort of beating myself up a little bit about it, just like, you know, why have I done that? And I know it'll probably never be looked at again, but from my perspective, it's hard to articulate it really, but that's probably as best as I can do with articulating it, actually.
Oh, thank you. And the other question is, what 3 words would you use to describe your experience with Advance?
Interesting is probably the first one. I think the whole day is interesting. Like I said before, you know, in terms of getting that feedback sort of as you're going on there. Insightful is probably another day. Again, you get into learn things about yourself that outside of that environment you probably wouldn't have that opportunity to go to. And then a third word would probably be worthwhile, I guess. And both times that I've gone, like, you know, I've had to like move work around and stuff like that, and that has been a bit of an inconvenience. But each time that I've gone, I'm like, you know, actually, I'm glad that I did, and it was worthwhile. So I'd say they're probably the three words that come to mind first.
So do you have any words of wisdom for other people that are taking part, like other participants?
Words of wisdom. I think eat good the night before, because you have to do fasted bloods, and I'm a breakfast guy. I like to have my breakfast, and that B&B, the menu was absolutely gorgeous, and I couldn't have anything. So eat well the night before would be the word from me.
Really, really good advice. That, yeah. We're sorry about the fasting bloods.
Right. No, I get it. Necessary evil, isn't it?
What's your favourite way to kind of like spend your weekends now?
I spend most of my weekends walking or camping. That's what I like to do in my free time. I have my son most weekends, so I do things with him. I'm trying to get him into it, but he's lazy. He likes to. He's 6. He's just turned 6. But he's just sort of discovered YouTube, and I'm trying to limit that and not be one of them dads. So I do try to get him outdoors as much as possible. But yes, I like to, like I say, hiking is one of my favourite things to do. It's what I do during the week as well for work. Like, I've turned it into a job, which is the secret. Like, basically paid to go walking. Going to the gym is obviously a big part of what I do as well in my free time. But they're probably the two main things. Yeah.
Great. And then the last question is just a general thing. So they basically ask, what's your like favourite film and your favourite book of all time? And then I'm done.
My favourite film. I only say this one because it covers all the genres, because I prefer to sort of look at things more genre based. But I like Forrest Gump. It's like 4 movies in one. And I'm not going to pretend that I've ever read a book and give you one. The Bodybuilder's Kitchen is on my side here, and that's the closest to a book that I've read in my life.
Of all time, yeah, that's a very honest answer. And Forrest Gump's also one of my favourites. I think it's a great film.
It's a classic.
Very clever, yeah, brilliant. So thank you so much for talking to us. When's your next? You've been in recently, haven't you?